Well, the recent fuel price hikes are hitting motorists and commuters hard. Government says it's working on proposed regulatory changes. Treasury needs to investigate the implications the changes would have, which could take some time. As international prices surge, it seems we may need an intervention sooner. We're joined now by Robert Maake, the Director for Fuel Pricing at the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. Robert, good evening to you and thank you for your time. As I understand it, several policies are now being proposed, including a price cap. How would a price cap work?
Yes, good evening and good evening to the listeners and viewers at home. The price cap on ULP 93 will work this way as even. Every month when we announce the fuel price, we'll then say for 93, that is the maximum price, which means then anyone who can afford to sell at the lower price at the maximum price will be able to do so.
So in other words, you would allow proper competition in the wholesale market and the retail and at the retail market?
Yeah, it will be probably at the retail market because the prices that we are regulating currently is the retail prices of petrol.
But what I'm trying to get to is that diesel is regulated slightly differently to petrol. Diesel is regulated for the wholesale price. That's why you do get some variation. Would we have more variation with the policy you're proposing than we have with diesel at the moment?
Yes, what we are going to propose on diesel is that the department would like to stop publishing the diesel wholesale list selling price. That document will also be published in the government gazette in the coming weeks for public comment. The same with the price cap for ULP 93. These are the interventions that were also announced by the two ministers in March. Remember when they introduced the temporary relief on the fuel levy, they also mentioned that there will be other phase 2 interventions. These are also part of those two interventions. The first two have already been implemented, which is the removal of demand-side management levy on ULP 95 in the England market. That was removed last month already. The implementation of the BSP review has been implemented from the beginning of this month.
How far would the competition go? Let me explain what I mean. It may be that, for example, the taxi industry would prefer to fill up at petrol stations where the taxi driver would do the filling up themselves. He wouldn't have a petrol pump attendant. It may also be that someone in Sandton would prefer to pay a little bit extra because they don't want to get their hands dirty doing some real work for a change, and they would like someone to do the filling of the tank for them. Would you allow that? That, of course, would have implications for a number of people who would lose their jobs.
Yeah, remember firstly the salaries for the petrol attendant is actually, their wages is protected by government. So that is an element of the retail margin. What we are expecting, Stephen, in the main is not necessarily for the retailers to actually cut on the cost of operating a service station, because those costs are awarded fully under the regulatory accounting system. The expectation is that, particularly at the wholesale level, that's where we believe that there could be an opportunity for reduction in the cost of the fuel there. But the cost is the salary for service station workers is protected by government.
Okay, so from what you say then, Robert, it doesn't seem to me like there will be much change. There'll be a little bit of competition, but it won't really affect the price of fuel by more than 2 or 3%. I mean, we're fiddling at the edges here. The real problem is the high international prices, and the problem that comes along with that is the high tax on it, the 35% tax we pay on fuel. Stephen, it's difficult to go into the technical details at the moment, but what we're also trying to do as government, we are trying to check if this proposal will work, because some of the wholesalers who might be able to, for example, if you have an inland wholesaler, a refiner, for example, like your Sasol, your Total, and so on, because some of that fuel is manufactured in the inland refinery and so on, they may be able to give a discount that is bigger than what others might be able to give. If you are in the coastal area, you may also be able to discount the fuel. Remember the price that we use in our pricing formula, even though it's determined by the international market. But as a major or a multinational oil company, like you are a BP, for example, and our head office is in, for example, is in London. So So you may be able to negotiate discounts when you buy for all your BP operations in other countries. So when you buy in bulk, you might be able to get a discount. So these are some of the things that we expect to see happening, if possible, under this new price cap. But as I'm saying now, I'm just saying this thing from my knowledge and my thinking, but we are going to publish the document for public comment. And that's when we can be able then to assess how this is going to work and what the people who are actually operating in the industry are saying.
In the end, the problem is that we import oil, right? We import the oil, we get diesel and the petrol from that, kerosene too, etc. And so that makes us the hostage of international prices. We can't control it. We can control the fact that we have a huge amount of coal, and Sasol used to produce a huge amount of petrol from that coal. Isn't it still doing that? I mean, can't we expand Sasol's capacity and then take control of prices a bit?
Yeah, the issue of Sasol has got its own other effect, Stephen. If you look at the CO2 emissions, you know, when you burn coal, you emit a lot of CO2 in the environment. So it also becomes costly to produce petrol and diesel from coal because you have to have other equipment to deal with the emissions that come from there. As I've mentioned about the import of oil, Steve, is that companies are able to purchase this oil, using contracts, like future contracts and so on. In this case, then they are able to get discounted oil. So they may be able to do that under the new dispensation if they really want to be competitive.
Robert.
But yeah, these are things that we'll have to get from the stakeholders in the coming weeks and so.
Robert Maake, thank you, Director for Fuel Pricing in the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy.